You can't support my children, what a loser, my sister scoffed. Although I never agreed to pay for them, the next day when I told her that I had finished paying for everything, my Aunt Laura yelled, "You are abandoning your own family." Hi Reddit. I'm Miguel, I'm 32 years old, I work 2 jobs, construction during the day and security at night, barely managing to cover the bills. I have a 6-year-old son, Leo, and every euro I earn should go towards building a future for him. But for the last 6 months I've been paying for more than just my own son. 6 months ago, my sister Sophia showed up at my door with a suitcase and 2 children in tow. Her landlord kicked her out, her ex wasn't paying child support, and she said she had nowhere to go, just a couple of weeks, she promised, with eyes full of desperation. I should have known better. The weeks turned into months. She didn't look for work, she didn't try to save money. Instead she made herself comfortable, treating my house as if it were her own while I covered everything. Food, rent, bills, school supplies. At first I kept telling myself it was temporary, that I was helping my family, but over time I realized that she had no intention of supporting herself. I barely had time to sit down before her kids started devouring the food I had bought. My legs ached again after another 16-hour shift, but Sophia didn't even look at me as she filled her glass with soda, acting as if I were just a delivery service. Well, I cleared my throat, rubbing it. I wanted to talk to you about the money. I can't keep paying for everything for you and the kids. I have my own son to support, and I simply can't afford it anymore. Sophia's fork clattered against her plate. She blinked at me and then let out a sarcastic laugh. You can't afford it? Our rent, the bills. Come on, she interrupted, rolling her eyes. You don't even have a mortgage, you're just being selfish. Selfish, that word made my stomach clench. I'm going to help with the shopping, she said, unpacking her suitcases in my living room. I'll find a job soon, I just need a little time. At first she did some things, cooked dinner a couple of times, picked up Leo from school when I worked late, but as the weeks went by the job search never happened. Instead, she spent her days on the couch, scrolling through her phone while I worked myself to exhaustion. And now, months later, she wasn't asking for help, she was demanding it. I clenched my jaw. Selfish. Sophia, I've been helping you for 6 months, food, school supplies, daycare. And now you expect me to also pay for extracurricular activities, tutors, new clothes every season? When is this supposed to stop? Her voice rose. When does it stop? When I don't need it anymore. That's what family does. Or at least, that's what real siblings do. She exhaled sharply, gripping the edge of the table. Sophia, I never agreed to raise your children, they are not mine. Then she smiled, that cruel smirk I'd seen too many times before. She leaned forward, her voice dripping with mockery. You can't support my children? What a loser. Her words hit me like a slap, but worst of all, the kids were there listening, watching. And it was at that moment that I decided I'd had enough. After that dinner I barely slept, tossing and turning in bed, replaying Sophia's words in my head. You can't support my children? What a loser. I had spent half a year making sure they had a roof over their heads, feeding them and covering all their needs, and that was the thanks I got. She not only felt entitled to my help, she thought it was my obligation. When my alarm went off at 5 a.m., my exhaustion was replaced by something else. A cold, hard realization. I had allowed this to happen. And never once did she say thank you. Instead, she acted like it was normal, like I owed her something just for existing. And I let her. The breaking point. That morning I got up, put on my work boots and left without saying a word. I wasn't ready for another argument. But when I got home that afternoon, Sophia was waiting for me. Miguel, we need to talk, she said, arms crossed. I sighed, already exhausted. About what? She snorted with contempt. About what you said last night. You humiliated me in front of my children. I blinked. You humiliated yourself. You alone. Now they're scared, they think we're going to run out of food or a roof, she continued, as if I were the villain in this story. Pinch me. Sophia rolled her eyes. It's not that easy. I have 2 children, what do you expect me to do? Work at a supermarket for minimum wage?
Ist daher?
Yes, in fact. She let out an incredulous laugh. I can't believe it. And at that moment I understood. Sophia never intended to work. It wasn't that she couldn't, it was that she didn't want to. Why would she? She had me. You know what, Miguel, she said, shaking her head. I always knew you were selfish. But this? You're abandoning your own family. If Mom and Dad were here, they would be ashamed of you. That was it, the straw that broke the camel's back. I felt my hands clench into fists, but I forced myself to stay calm.
No, Sofía.
If Mom and Dad were here, they would tell you to stop acting like a spoiled brat. Her face turned red. Enough, I said, grabbing my jacket. I'm done with this. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. I always thought the moment I walked away would be a big fight, a heartbreaking scream, something dramatic that would make it inevitable. But it turned out it only took a simple realization. Sofía was never going to change. After the last confrontation, after our last argument, I stopped doing extra things for her. I still let her stay with the kids, but I didn't buy extra food, I didn't pay for school supplies, and I didn't give her money when she ran out of cash. And Sofía lost control. The manipulation begins. At first, it was small things. Exaggerated size every time I opened the fridge, shaking her head dramatically when she had to make peanut butter sandwiches instead of ordering takeout. Then came the attempts at guilt. Miguel, the kids need new clothes. Really, can't you help just this once? Leo has everything he needs, my kids should have the same. You used to be a good brother. What happened to you? And when that didn't work, she resorted to the only thing she knew had always worked before. Our family. The family ambush. A week after I cut her off financially, I came home to find my Aunt Laura, my cousin Raquel, and even my grandmother Carmen waiting for me in my own house. Sofía was in the center of the group, fake tears streaming down her face. Oh, here he is, exclaimed Aunt Laura, arms crossed. The man who abandoned his own family. I sighed, already exhausted. Sofía, what is this? My grandmother Carmen shook her head. Mickey dear, your sister told us everything. She told us that you kicked her out without giving her an option, that her children are starving and that you... I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. I didn't kick her out. She still lives here. Aunt Laura scoffed. Oh, and so what? You're just denying her your help with children in the house. Her children, not mine, I replied firmly. I'm already giving them a roof. She's had 6 months to find a job, and she hasn't even tried. She's a mother, Raquel intervened. You know how hard it is for a single mother to work. I know many single mothers who work full-time and still take care of their children, I replied firmly. And Sofía doesn't even try. She just expects someone else to solve her problems. Sofía wiped away the fake tears and sobbed. You don't understand, Miguel. I'm trying, but it's so hard. No, Sofía, I'm trying, I blurted out, my voice sharp. I work 16 hours a day, I barely see my own son because I'm too busy paying for the house you live in for free. And instead of being grateful, you call me a loser and run to the family to play the victim. Silence. Aunt Laura shifted uncomfortably. My grandmother Carmen looked away. Even Raquel, who always took Sofía's side, suddenly avoided my gaze. Sofía, realizing she was losing, played her last card. The grand guilt tactic. Fine, she shouted. If you don't want to help your own family, just say it. You're abandoning me just like Mom and Dad abandoned us. And that was the moment I exploded. The final blow. You want to talk about Mom and Dad? I said, my voice shaking with rage. Fine, let's talk about them. I took a step forward, staring at her. When Mom and Dad got sick, who took them to their medical appointments? Silence. When they couldn't afford their medicine, who covered the bills? Sofía swallowed. But who put their life on hold for 2 years to care for them while you were partying, pretending none of it was happening? Her face turned pale. Don't you dare act like we're the same. They didn't abandon you, you ran away when things got tough. And now you expect me to clean up your mess just like I did back then? More silence. I turned to Aunt Laura and Raquel. You want to help her so much? Go ahead. Open your homes. Open your wallets. Pay her bills. Aunt Laura opened her mouth, but no words came out. Well, I mean, I would, but what? I interrupted. But it's too much? But you can't imagine that? Sofía froze, her gaze darting nervously, realizing that no one else was jumping to her defense. I took a deep breath and made my final decision. You have 1 month, Sofía, I said in a cold tone. 1 month to find a job and sort out your life. Because on the first day of next month you'll be out. Sofía's eyes went wide. You can't be serious. Watch me. And without another word, I turned and left. The countdown begins. After telling her she had a month to get a job or leave, I expected her to make some effort, maybe apply for some positions, at least pretend to try. But Sofía, she dug in even deeper. During the first week, she acted like nothing had changed. She still lay on the couch all day scrolling through her phone. She still let the kids do whatever they wanted without lifting a finger. She still rolled her eyes every time I came home exhausted from work. And when I reminded her of the deadline, she scoffed. Please, you would never kick out your own family. That's when I understood something crucial. She wasn't just using me, she actually believed she was entitled to everything I had. And at that moment I stopped feeling guilty. The family complaints began. By the second week, the news had spread through the family. Aunt Laura called furious. Miguel, this is ridiculous. You can't just kick your sister and her poor children out on the street. They're not on the street, I said, pinching the bridge of my nose. She has a deadline. What is this, an eviction notice? Yes, I replied coldly. That's exactly what it is. And that left her speechless. After that, the calls didn't stop. Some were full of indignation. Others tried to guilt-trip me. But the best of all was my grandmother Carmen. Mickey dear, she sighed. I know Sophia can be difficult, but families should support each other. Wouldn't your parents want you to help her? I took a deep breath. Grandma, if Mom and Dad were alive, they would tell Sophia to stop slacking off and start acting like an adult. Silence, then a soft, well, you might be right about that. One by one, the relatives started to back down. No one really wanted Sophia in their house. They just wanted me to keep playing the responsible one so they didn't have to. Too bad for them, that job was officially closed. Sophia's last play. In the third week, Sophia started to panic. First, she tried being nice. She suddenly offered to cook dinner, asked about my day, even brought me a coffee one night when I got home late. I didn't buy it. Then she tried the guilt. I sent an application for a job today, she said one night, looking at her phone. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Where? She shrugged. I don't know, something on the internet. What's the position? Another shrug. Something remote, customer service, I think.
Esther daher.
Did you really send the application? Or did you just see the offer? She glared at me. My God, why are you interrogating me? At least I'm trying. I sighed. You have 1 week left, Sophia. She huffed and stomped off like a child. And then came the last stage, anger. Sophia's outburst. A few days later, I came home to find her pacing the kitchen, furious. I can't believe you're actually doing this to me. She yelled as soon as I walked through the door. I set my keys on the counter, making a pointed noise. Doing what exactly? Kicking out your own family, she shrieked. I exhaled. Sophia, I gave you a month. A month? A month is nothing, she roared. You know how hard it is to get a job, find a place to live. I crossed my arms. No harder than working 2 jobs to support someone else's children for 6 months. That left her speechless for a moment, but then her eyes narrowed. You're a monster. I let out a laugh. I'm a monster for expecting you to act like an adult. You're ruining my life. She screamed. No, I replied, my voice firm. For the first time, I'm forcing you to take responsibility for it. And for the first time, Sophia had no response. Moving day. The night before the deadline, Sophia tried one last trick. I was in my room when I heard a soft knock on the door. Miguel? I sighed. What is it, Sophia? The door opened a crack. She stood there looking small, like the little sister I used to protect. Are you really going to make me leave? She whispered. I nodded. Yes, I am. She bit her lip. But where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Figure it out. She looked at me, waiting for it to give, waiting for the old Miguel to come back. But that guy was gone. She spun on her heel and slammed the door shut. The next morning, I left early for work. I didn't want to be there when Sophia left. When I got home, everything was silent. Sophia was gone. She didn't leave a note, didn't send a message, nothing. I went to check her room, empty. The kids' things gone. For the first time in 6 months, my house actually felt like mine again. I sank onto the couch, let out a long sigh, and closed my eyes. It was over. Epilogue. A message from Sophia. A few days later, my phone vibrated. Sophia. I hope you're happy. The kids are devastated. I don't know how you can sleep at night. I stared at the message for a long moment before typing my reply. Me better than I have in years. And I meant it. It's been a few months since Sophia left, and I can honestly say I've never felt more free. For 6 months I let guilt and obligation consume me, draining my bank account and my sanity. But the moment she walked out that door, it was like a chain broke. No more walking on eggshells in my own home. No more watching my food disappear from the pantry overnight. No more coming home after a 16-hour shift only to hear, "We're out of milk, can you go buy some more?" It was just Leo and me again. And that felt like peace. Where did Sophia end up? I later found out that Sophia had moved in with Aunt Laura. Ironic, considering Laura was the one who criticized me the most for abandoning my sister and her children. For the first few weeks I didn't hear anything. Then one day I got a message from my cousin Raquel. "Raquel, guess who's getting a taste of her own medicine?" I didn't reply immediately, but curiosity got the better of me. "Me? What do you mean?" She sent a laughing emoji. "Raquel, Aunt Laura kicked her out." I blinked surprised. "Me, you're kidding." Raquel, "Nope. Mom couldn't handle her either. She expected to stay for free, same as with you. Lasted about 2 months before Mom told her to get a job or get out. And she got out. Apparently, she tried the same thing at Laura's, lounging around all day expecting someone else to foot the bill, making excuses about how hard it was to be a single mother. And just like me, Laura got tired of it. One day she simply packed Sophia's things, left them by the door, and told her to figure it out. In the end, Sophia and the kids ended up renting a cheap apartment on the other side of town, and for the first time in years she had to get a job. My first breath of fresh air in years. Without Sophia and her kids draining my finances, I finally had some breathing room. I took Leo to the Alicante Zoo for the first time in over a year. We had a real father-son day. Ice cream, feeding the giraffes, laughing until our stomachs hurt. I fixed my car instead of constantly throwing money at someone else's bills. I even started saving for a down payment on a house, a place that would be ours, not one where I had to accommodate freeloaders. And the best part? I wasn't exhausted all the time anymore. When you stop carrying a weight that isn't yours, you finally realize how heavy it was. Sophia's last manipulation attempt. A month after she left, Sophia sent me another message. "Sophia, I hope you're happy. The kids miss you. You didn't just abandon me, you abandoned them too." I stared at the message for a long moment before replying. "Me, I didn't abandon them, Sophia. I abandoned you." She didn't reply again. For years, I let Sophia treat me like an ATM instead of a brother. I let her take advantage of my kindness, my guilt, my sense of responsibility. But family isn't about using each other. Family isn't about making one person sacrifice everything while the other just takes. Sophia thought I would always be there to fix her problems. She thought I would always feel too guilty to say no. But the truth is, the moment I stopped letting her take advantage of me, she learned to fend for herself. She was always capable of taking care of herself. She just didn't want to. And that's the biggest lesson I learned. People will take everything you let them take. But the moment you stop giving, they find a way to survive without you. And you finally start to live. Final update. I honestly never thought my story would get this much attention. I figured a few people would comment, maybe share their thoughts. But the overwhelming support and even the criticism took me by surprise. Reading all the responses made me realize how many people have been in similar situations, dealing with entitled family members and struggling to set boundaries. I want to take a moment to acknowledge both the support and the criticism I received, because believe me, I saw it all. The supportive comments. Many people assured me I did the right thing by standing up for myself and putting my son first. Many pointed out that Sophia had every opportunity to find work and contribute, but instead chose to do nothing. Others shared their own experiences about how their family members took advantage of them, and how difficult it was to break free from that cycle. Some single parents even commented, saying they work full-time while raising their kids without expecting anyone else to help them. That really made me reflect, because it showed that Sophia wasn't struggling because of bad luck. She was struggling because she refused to help herself. There were people who were especially angry about the fact that Sophia insulted me while eating the food I paid for. And honestly, that was my breaking point too. It was the moment I realized that she didn't just expect my help, she believed she deserved it, no matter how much it cost me. And then there were those who simply wanted to know what happened after Laura kicked her out. For those who asked if Sophia was forced to get a job, from what I heard, she now works in retail. Long hours, minimum wage, and she hates it. But that's life. She finally has to be responsible for herself. The criticism. Of course, not everyone agreed with how I handled the situation. Some people thought I was too harsh, that I should have given Sophia more time, or at least continued helping her for the sake of the children. I get it, I really do. The idea of putting kids out on the street isn't something I took lightly. But at the end of the day, Sophia is their mother, not me. It was never my job to support them. Others argue that life is expensive, and not everyone can find a job so easily. And while I understand that point as well, I also know that Sophia never even tried. If she had made the slightest effort, I wouldn't have had to take such drastic action. There were also comments saying that a month wasn't enough time for her to get on her feet. But the truth is, she already had 6 months of completely free housing before I gave her a deadline. If she had been looking for a job during that time, she wouldn't have needed any more help. The month I gave her was simply my way of finally holding her accountable for her actions. Some people accused me of abandoning my family, saying I should have continued supporting Sophia no matter what. But to those people I ask, at what point would it have been enough? 6 more months? A year? 5 years? There was no end in sight. If I hadn't put a stop to it, she would have continued taking advantage of me forever. Final reflection. At the end of the day, I don't regret anything. My home is finally a peaceful place, my finances are stable again, and most importantly, I have more time and energy to dedicate to my son, who deserves a father who isn't constantly exhausted and stressed. Sophia made her choices, I made mine. And for the first time, I chose to think about myself. Thank you again to everyone who shared their thoughts, whether you agreed with me or not. This whole experience has taught me an important lesson. Family should support each other, but that support should be reciprocal. For the first time in a long time, I feel free.